Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Ankerstar Wealth afternoon show, which that happens on Fridays. I'm in my conference gear. Corey and I went to a local conference here in Austin where we were the only ones local. Everybody flew in, a lot of great investment ideas. We're not going to talk about any of that today, though, because it's all alternative stuff, and we got alternative stuff. We have to take a hard look at it. But I'm also repping Alabama. Don't forget game of the week tomorrow. We got Alabama, Georgia. I kind of want Georgia to win just so UT Georgia can be that undefeated matchup. But who am I kidding? Roll Tide. We'll see if they can kind of pull off the upset. I haven't seen the line on the game, but I'm sure they're not favored. Who's Ohio State playing tomorrow, Mike? Do you know? Do you still follow that crazy team?
I follow them. It's like we just wait till the playoffs for Ohio State. We just count on them being there.
And that's the nonsense that I love about this guy is he doesn't even know what's going on, but he's assuming they're in the final 12, probably even the final 4. But what he should be focused on is investing, and that's why he doesn't even know what Ohio State's doing, because he's laser focused on this morning's inflation report, the PCE, which came in lower than expected. So what's going on out there? Is the Fed actually did we win against inflation? Mike's going to tell us whether we won or not, or where we are standing with that. Then we're going to go back to a topic that we talked about a while ago. We talked fast food, and we're going to talk about Weight Watchers. So that's what Mike's going to talk about today. And then you haven't heard me say what was my favorite word for a long time, and that's Bitcoin. So what's been going on in the Bitcoin space? If I'm not talking about it, that generally means, okay, I'm human too. Not all that happy about it, right? Well, it's been a little bit of a house of pain, but we're going to review. Let's start from we could start last year. That'd almost be cheating, but start from when most of you all got in, if you're with us, starting in the January timeframe with the ETFs. I'll show you the charts. I'll show you where I think it's going and why now is a critical time. But that's what we've got for you today. It's an educational program, so you have to do your own due diligence for acting upon anything you hear in this presentation. More disclaimer information available at ankerstarwealth.com, and the opinions expressed are Mike and mine alone. Let's start with Mike. Over to you for some inflation talk.
Yes, inflation. So the Fed cut the discount rate a half point because they believe inflation was under control. And it's kind of like getting the grade on your test, like it's a week or two later, and it shows up under control, lower than expected. So I'm sure the Fed, they were all slapping high fives. Yes, we made the right decision. Inflation down to 2.2%, lower than expected. And just keep in mind, inflation, they expect it to be around 2%. So and they originally projected it a little bit higher. So continued good news on that front. I always want to reiterate, does that mean the price of goods are going down? No, that means the price of goods is going up at a slower rate. So we're not going back 5 years ago to the prices. So, I just say that, kind of that's the bad news side of it. But the good news is this confirms the Fed can continue to make their rate cuts to have a more favorable policy for businesses. So that's all good. Now let's talk about the bad news, not related to inflation and Fed. Weight comes on. Now this is the one that keeps going up. It seems like it goes up as you age. It goes up at a higher percentage. So what was the old great way to do it? The old days was, count your calories, do your exercise, use Weight Watchers. But now, we got Eli Lilly and we got Novo, we got drugs, we got, pills that are going to cure everything. So what does this do to Weight Watchers? Well, it cost their CEO their job. Unfortunately, their CEO fired, let go. It was an interim president, CEO. WW, they rebranded. We're not called Weight Watchers. We're WW. I don't know. Whatever. But, bad news, and more bad news. They tried to get involved with it says burgeoning market for obesity drugs. It's kind of like, that seems like cheating for Weight Watchers. It seems like the old way is, you got to get on the scale and you got to follow the plan. They tried to delve into that. And then of course, who can forget, like in 2015 when Oprah bought a 10% share in Weight Watchers. And I'm going to show you the chart. So Oprah buys in 10%, she buys it and the stock immediately jumps up. Easy money for her. It's legal. So here's the chart. This is the 15, 20-year chart. So you see this big spike.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
This is not my weight after Thanksgiving, although it probably could have been. This is Oprah buying in. We're going to change this company. It's going to go somewhere. Stock hits, 105 that day, 105. And now it's down to 82 cents.
Wow.
The House of Pain. I know Oprah exited the House of Pain at some point. She probably profited when we took this big drop here. I don't know where she got out, but companies not where you want to put your money. It's obviously not doing well. I'm surprised it hasn't went bankrupt. This year it's only down 90.61%, in an up year in the market. You can see that Weight Watchers is fading and everybody's kind of, and Eli Lilly's chart probably looks like the exact opposite of this. So, I just thought we'd revisit it. It's kind of interesting to look at. Would I touch this stock? Absolutely not. Maybe I'd put 82 cents in it, but chances are it's going out at some point or going to be rebought and rebranded or whatever. But I just thought it'd be fun to revisit it. So, and I know all of us, well, not all of us, but many of us deal with weight, and we want to try to keep our weight down. And I guess these times are past. So back to you, Steve, and in a more interesting upward chart with Bitcoin.
Well, hey, I took the bait. You said, hey, let's take a look at Lilly. I win. I had it ready to go under the hammer here. So yeah, if you want the inverse correlation to Weight Watchers, it's Eli Lilly. Take some drugs and lose the weight, right? So yeah, Lilly has been doing well, if you will. But that's not what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about Bitcoin. We're going to go to one of my favorite screens, which I don't share out that often, but we do pay for an advanced version of CNBC that allows us to program across the top here. If you can kind of see my cursor rolling around. So anyhow, I've got my dream team. I've got my Fab Five. I've got the players that I'm watching, my fantasy stock picks, if you will, programmed here. So we got Apple on the left, go Apple. I mean, I've been saying go Apple for, I don't know, 20 years now. So yeah, go Apple. Blackstone Group, if you're familiar. Toast is one of our exponential growth opportunity stocks that's out there. It's hitting off 52-week highs. So, I mean, that's great. And then we have BITB, which you may recognize as our Bitcoin exposure. That's the ETF. Again, it came out with all the other ETFs on January 11th of earlier this year, which for the most of you, that's when you started your Bitcoin journey. We have it in about the top third of our models, almost top 40% of our models, if you will. Anywhere from just like a couple of percent exposure up to over 10% for some of the higher risk stuff. And then you have a name you may not know, which is MSTR. That's MicroStrategy. If you've ever seen Michael Saylor on TV, comes off as like an Elon Musk style, like, prophet of the future, if you will. But anyhow, those are the different plays that are out there. So let's look at BITB. We're going to go to a full quote here. So again, I won't go into the investment thesis so much. That's really its own topic for another day. But if you believe, then this chart should be interesting to you. So we started here. It starts on January 11th, right when it opened. So you see at 111.24, opened at 25.23, took a dip. That happens. That's almost irrelevant. When things open and start trading, all the investment banks that have to bring in the mega millions to fund these things are allowed to now get back out with some of their shares. So anyhow, you do see a lot of selling right away sometimes when an ETF opens. But anyhow, over the course of a month and a half, so January 11th to, let's hit the high, March 12th, you saw, I don't know, I remember it being a 40-50% run. I suppose I could do the math on the fly, 25 to 15, so 60% run up. And since then, it has chilled out. Now, we don't spend a lot of time looking at technicals around here. We look at the long-term thesis. Is it best of breed? Is the thesis intact? Is there a catalyst for it to go higher? And I would say that's the case in all these cases. But from a technical perspective, this is called chop or churn, or this is turbulence, right? So every time it drops down to 30, and again, it does track an equivalent of the Bitcoin price, so that chart would look the same. But since you're looking at the Schwab statement, you're seeing this, you see it drop down to, below 30 or so, there's resistance there, and it kind of pops back up to what I call a key level, which is where we're at, is like 36. It may continue to drop and churn, but there will be a day, I can't guarantee that. I highly believe that there will likely be a day. There's my compliance portion of it, where when this goes higher than 40, when we see 40 again in BITB, then it's going to scream higher. That means all of the ETFs that look just like this, and the underlying Bitcoin that looks just like this, and MicroStrategy and other companies that are highly levered to Bitcoin, the charts all look the same. And when it finally breaks higher, it's going to move, I think, very quickly higher. We shall see. I like BITB. I think that's the best pure play exposure for you to have. You could own it outright, but then you have to worry about owning it outright. You can own it through an ETF. It's reported on your Schwab. You can see it. You don't have to worry about losing your 128-digit password or somebody throwing out your laptop because they bought you a new one, any of that stuff. So yeah, I like the way we own it there. If you want some more risk, and you know what you're doing, so that means we've had a conversation, you can go into MicroStrategy. You're basically levering, and there's actually MSTX is an ETF, which it levers MicroStrategy, right? So it's more action junkie stuff, so you don't necessarily want to do that. I'll pull the 1-year chart because MicroStrategy is a company, but if you kind of look back where it was valued at 112, I'll take one, there's 111. Down here at 50, it's 3x basically, so 50 to 100, well, 2.5x. But when you look at it, the chop in its chart, it's almost back to new highs. Now, I would say it's a 50% chance whether it goes back down here and revisits 120 or when it goes higher. But same thing, when it rips higher and breaks through all this resistance, that's when you're going to see another significant move up, in my opinion, like this one back here. So if you know what you're doing and you want to talk about MicroStrategy exposure for your Bitcoin instead of BITB, there's just more risk there. And then Michael Saylor, if he's up, here's the risk, Michael Saylor, right? So you're kind of in Bitcoin because you're worried about the government and its manipulation of the dollar. Well, here you have one person in charge of a company that is levering up big time in Bitcoin. So it just a lot more risk is the point. But the good news is we're seeing nice big numbers. And when you like things that move from like 120 to 170 in the past month, that's a good sign. So Bitcoin's back. I do think it breaks out and it moves higher going. So what's the catalyst? The election. Both candidates will do and say a lot of things to get votes. And they realize that when I talk to older advisors, I'm like, hey, even if you're not into Bitcoin or crypto or anything, if your kids ask you about it and you say you just dismiss it, they're just going to do it anyway without you, right? So you might as well learn a little bit about it so you can talk intelligently about it. Same thing with presidential candidates. As you've got the young people out there, a lot of them don't vote, so trying to inspire them to vote. And one of the things they can resonate with is talking Bitcoin and or other cryptocurrencies. I like Bitcoin myself, but anyhow, so that's kind of the catalyst for things to go higher at this time. All right, that's enough from me for today. Before I sign off, Mike, any parting shots, whether it's about Bitcoin, football, or anything else on your mind before we let everybody go for the weekend?
My Bengals are 0-3. Yeah, it's very sad.
The memes are priceless. They're inappropriate for consumption, but the memes are priceless.
And keep in mind, there's an upcoming Cincinnati versus Las Vegas Raiders.
Don't even slur my team like that.
I'm sure Cincinnati will get a win at least that week. We'll side bets.
The only thing I'm sure is if somebody's going to get a win that weekend, right? Is because that's like 99% chance. There probably is some 0-0 option in Vegas for you to bet on for teams that are so bad this year. But hey, maybe they'll both win out till they get to that game, and it will be game of the week.
Maybe not.
I mean, the Cowboys did win. They found somebody they could beat in the Giants, right? Well, they didn't necessarily win. They just kind of didn't lose. But so we'll see. All right, everybody. Hope you guys this is like the first weekend of college football where people are doing in-conference stuff. So it's starting to get a little more interesting, if you will. And with that, good luck to everybody's team out there, and we will see you back on Monday. Have a good one. Bye.